Yeah. It was like,
Yeah.
Yes.
making like cauliflower
You're
cheese
correct.
bites.
Joe, do you have uses?
Two daughters
Oh.
and one grandchild. So, and one. Wow.
What's her name? Make it happen.
Keith and Cal,
So I'm excited.
being babies.
I'm like, yeah, the
Yes.
whole board meeting.
Parents are.
Yes.
And I'm like.
Gold both ways.
why is that? I even commented, I was like.
Yeah. Ready? Okay, we're gonna get started. All right. Good evening and welcome to the March 28th, 2024 regular meeting of the San Diego Community Power Board of Directors. I'm Joe LaCava, Chair of the Board and the representative for the City of San Diego. I'm talking a little bit louder because our mics are not working. Want to make sure people that are watching remotely can hear us. We welcome the members of the public, community power staff, and board members joining us in person today. I now call the March 28th, 2024 regular meeting of the Board of Directors of San Diego Community Power to order. Megan, would you please call the roll?
Director Yermani. Director Parent.
Here.
Director Aguirre. Director Hinsey here. Director McCann.
Present.
Vice Chair Lawson Reamer. Chair LaCava.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. So please stand if you're able and face the flag for the Pledge of Allegiance. Hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So next up, we'll go to special presentations and introductions. I'll start with a land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that this meeting is taking place on the land of the original inhabitants of the greater San Diego region. A land acknowledgement is a critical step towards working with Native communities to create meaningful partnerships and inclusion in the stewardship and protection of their cultural resources and homeland. Let's take a moment to honor those ancestral grounds that were the traditional lands of the Kumeyaay. Okay, next, we have an opportunity to introduce new members to the community power team. Linda Roberts, there we go. Please introduce yourself. Give us a few words about yourself.
I'm Linda Robertson. I'm the new IT manager. I come from a background of pharmaceutical, retail, education, and hospitality. I come with 27 years of experience in IT. I look forward to working with SDCP and bring my knowledge, experience, professionalism, and my ability to get things done and make sure that we bring out new technology to the organization. As we had an issue today, the show must still go on. And as you can see, we're still having our meeting today, and that's what I'll ensure that I bring to the team always. I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
All right, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Do we have any items to be added, withdrawn, or reordered on the agenda?
We do not.
Right. And so now we'll go to non-agenda public comment. I want to note that written public comments submitted before the board meeting were emailed to all directors prior to the board meeting and will be posted on the website at the beginning of the meeting. Megan, do we have any non-agenda public comment?
There are no hands raised at this time.
All right, thank you. So next we'll move on to the consent calendar. Briefly, includes the meeting minutes of last month, the treasurer's report, the receiving files on programs, power services, human resources, customer operations, marketing, public relations, and corporate affairs, to receive the community advisory committee's monthly report, the update on regulatory and legislative affairs, and a proposed election to participate in state disability insurance. Do any of the directors like to pull any of the items from consent? Not seeing any. Megan, do we have any public comment on consent?
We do not.
All right. Are there any board members to make a comment? And we'll need a motion to move the consent calendar.
Motion to approve the consent calendar. So moved.
Thank
I'll
you.
second the motion.
All right. Okay, we have a motion and a second to move the consent. All in favor, raise your hand. That does pass 4-0. Thank you.
We need to take the roll call vote. For the video conference.
Oh, okay. Megan, will you please call for the vote?
Director Parent, how do you vote?
Aye.
Director Hensy, how do you vote?
Yes.
Director McCann, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair LaCava, how do you vote?
Aye.
Motion carries with all directors voting yes.
All right, thank you. Now move on to item 11, which is an update on residential solar plus storage program. I believe I'm turning it over to Emily Fisher, the Senior Program Manager, to present this item.
Hello, I'm Emily Fisher, Senior Program Manager on the programs team, and thank you for this opportunity to present an update on the residential solar storage program. Next slide. So I want to, oh, there we go. Next slide. There we go. So I wanted to start off with some background and a reminder on why we're creating this program. So net billing tariff impacts were analyzed last year, presented to the board and approved by the board in October of 2023. Net billing tariff creates savings by reducing the value for excess generation from our customers, or rather what SDCP is paying customers for their excess generation is less. And so it's resulting in savings to the SDCP budget. So we want to pass on those savings to our customers through the ACC export adders and through programs, and specifically this program. NBT provides greater economic value for installing both solar and storage rather than just standalone solar. And so it increases the cost for the system of our customers. And we want to support and further incentivize customers to adopt battery storage and continue solar and storage growth within Southern California. So we'll support our customers, the industry, and the grid through this program. Go to the next slide. In January, program staff presented on our flexible load strategy, enabling customer load optimization, delivering direct bill savings to participants, reducing procurement risks and cost, and in the long term, enabling lower rates for the broader community. In essence, these flexible load assets, which include thermostats, water heater controls, batteries, EVs, and more, will be aggregated to form a virtual power plant, or a VPP, or a system of distributed energy resources to support the grid and provide clean energy. This solar and storage program will be the first program to implement this flexible load strategy and initiate our VPP efforts, where we will engage SDCP customers in grid participation and incentivize and pay our customers for their grid participation, therefore keeping our ratepayer dollars within the region and really emphasizing the community and San Diego community power. Next slide. So as you know, our power services department is always looking for the best long-term agreements for power purchases agreements and energy storage agreements to provide clean energy to our customers and meet our resource adequacy requirements. These deals are with large developers and are often outside of Southern California and often even outside of the state. So as depicted here, power services fund these contracts with developers, and in return, we get RA and energy that's distributed to our customers. Go to the next slide. So with the residential solar storage program, while there will still be these long-term massive agreements that will still take place, we will divert some of that funding back to our customers for the energy that they're going to be producing. So we will be compensating our customers for their participation in this program, where they're providing energy and resource adequacy benefits back to us. Again, we will be providing value to our customers and procuring local energy through this program, so it'll be contributing to our local infill goals on the power services team. Next slide. So with our program goals, our first and primary goal is really to continue the solar and storage growth throughout our service territory with the impacts of NBT. We've seen massive growth over the last couple of years, and we don't want that to stop. Additionally, we are aiming for 50% of these incentives to get delivered to our communities of concern. Next is to support our customer goals with providing clean energy that's reliable during our peak periods on a daily basis. We also want to leverage non-SDCP incentives for our customers, like SCHIP, DACSASH, or the San Diego Equity Program, to reduce the overall cost for our customers of installing a new system. And finally, we really want to build our relationship with the customers and the industry. SDCP is still somewhat new, and we need to continue to grow our exposure to our customers. And through a program like this, we can really build strong relationships with contractors and our customers. Perfect, thank you. Over the last 6 months, staff has done research on battery storage programs nationally and within the state. Specifically, we've talked with many other California CCAs to see what programs that they've had in the past or existing and what they've learned from them and what their plans are for future programs. And we're actively engaged with a handful of CCAs now that are planning on launching a similar type of approach. We've also engaged with organizations, specifically CALSA, and we've launched a partnership with them. And then we've also interviewed a handful, actually a lot, not a handful, a lot more than that, battery manufacturers and installers and providers and aggregators to understand what works from their perspective and really understand how we can make this program the most successful for them, for our customers, and to meet our needs. And we also held a workshop in January where we had over 70 attendees across the industry to really open the door to comments and feedback on the proposed program design. So we've taken a lot of input to maximize these benefits across the board to allow this program to grow and continue it for years to come. Next slide. Thank you. So with the research and development over the last 6 months, we've created the best program to meet our needs for our customers and the industry. So this slide portrays the incentive structure, and we have 2 incentive rates. So one for market rate and then one for CARE, FARA, and our communities of concern. So they're not just disadvantaged communities. Our CARE and FARA customers are throughout our service territory, so regardless of region. And while communities of concern do include disadvantaged communities, they also include low-income populations and specific census tracts that our member agencies have added. And so unlike the pilot project you heard about last month that was focused specifically on DACs, this really opens up the net of customers that can leverage this higher incentive. And roughly over 50% of our customers are within our communities of concern. So it is a broad number of our customers that could leverage this. So we're proposing an upfront incentive based on system size to support reducing the overall cost of the system and a performance payment for battery participation that benefits the grid. And next we'll walk through 2 examples. So there's a lot of information here, but just wanted to show kind of the general details of how the program could impact a customer that's installing an average size system and how other potential incentives could be at play, because they can make a big impact. So some of the incentives are not shown here because there's a wide variety of ways that this could be looked at, leveraging different incentives. This is just 2 examples. So you'll see close to the middle of the screen, the blue bar that has the total cost. So this is assuming the same size system for both a market rate customer and a CARE, FARA, or communities of concern. And then just below that, you'll see incentives that could vary based on customer type. In this example, the market rate customer is leveraging ITC, and then the CARE, FARA, and communities of concern is able to leverage the SDCP incentive. So you'll see that the SDCP does have a healthy incentive for low income and disadvantaged communities this year. We're expecting an additional $20 million to hit that budget in the next couple of weeks. So it could be a great opportunity to leverage this incentive, but it does only provide about 85% of the cost for the system. And we know that there's a lower adoption rate across our CARE, FARA, and communities of concern. So we're going to support by covering that additional cost for these customers and really filling the gap to support them in implementing these systems. And then other external programs, may cover majority of solar costs, but this program again will help bridge that gap. And then that last blue bar shows the remaining out of pocket. So for the CARE, FARA, and communities of concern, their out of pocket cost for this would be $0, assuming they're able to leverage SDCP. And so it's just a great opportunity for them to be able to install these systems. And then additionally, not included within this table is the performance payment. That will be roughly $250 per year, again, based on system size and their participation, but that'll last for 10 years. And in no case, though, will the customer ever accept an upfront incentive that is more than their actual system cost. Go to the next slide. Next slide. Oh, thanks. Okay. So for the upfront incentive, it will be a mix between programs budget and the power services budget. The programs team will be leveraging $500,000 of our pilot budget for the program launch this year. And we do intend to grow the program over the next fiscal year with additional budget and hopefully further years. And then the other portion of the upfront incentive will come from the power services department. So we will be seeing savings in the RA obligation for these battery assets once they go online. So it'll reduce our peak and we'll see that savings in terms of an RA obligation reduction. And so the power services team will supplement that upfront incentive with about 57% or so of that total cost. So it does allow for this program to potentially continue with no additional budget, depending on how we want to modify it in future years. And then as for the performance payment, that will be fully funded by the Power Services Department as a reasonable payment for the energy that we're procuring during those hours that the batteries will be dispatched. So essentially, we're reallocating procurement cost to pay our customers for their actual battery participation. You can go to the next slide. So this will create the VPP, especially the VPP that I was referencing earlier in this presentation. Procuring clean energy for our customers where the funding stays local, doesn't leave the territory or even the state in some circumstances, and is reinvested into our ratepayers' pockets. So it'll go to our customers, your neighbors, contributing to our local development goals and specifically our local info goals. Go to the next slide. And then the last slide here is really just the next steps. So we're taking a number of internal steps right now to work through the final development of this program and ensure it's easy for our contractors and customers to enroll. And we will hopefully be ready for program launch in early summer. That is all.
All right, thank you, Emily, for the presentation. I'll note for the record that Mayor Aguirre joined us at the beginning of item 11. Megan, do we have any public comment on this item?
We do not.
This is a receive and file, and without objection, we'll just receive and file. And I'll turn over to board members for any questions or comments you might have.
Here's the one.
Yeah.
So I only had one constituent who reached out with questions about the upcoming program. Are you getting a lot of questions from folks, or is it kind of unusual that people are aware of this change?
We're not getting a lot of questions yet. We have obviously had communication with the contractors and battery manufacturers, so word's starting to spread a little bit. But we haven't had much in terms of customers because we haven't done anything publicly announcing the program yet. So while they may have heard word from, their contractor, we haven't had many questions that have come in so far.
I see.
But once we do officially launch, we're expecting a lot of interest and excitement about the program.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any other? I think I just had one question about anytime we can talk about reducing our RA requirement. It's always pretty big news. So is that something that the powers that be buy into, that we can demonstrate we've got solar local battery storage?
Yeah, we've had lots of conversations with the CEC about how we can do this process, and essentially we'll be adding these battery assets into our year ahead load forecast so that we're able to see those RA benefits on the backside. Don't want to speak further about that because that's more on the power services side, but we will see that benefit through this program.
Okay. And for the SDCP, a lot of times when we talk about these programs, they have a capacity. We can only serve X number of customers with this. But if it's revenue neutral or sort of revenue neutral, there really is no limit to the SDCP portion of this? Or am I misunderstanding?
Potentially. So right now there is the program budget that isn't necessarily cost neutral, but for the most part, yes, the program is cost neutral. So, the plan is to kind of have this pilot before the next fiscal year, and then we do intend to grow it for the following fiscal year. And then we may make some adaptations so that it is completely cost neutral and we continue to grow the program. But it's just kind of, we're going to see how it goes.
Okay, fantastic. All right. Again, thank you, Emily. Appreciate it. So seeing no other questions or comments from the board, we'll move right along. Thank you. Next up is item 12, which is to consider approving amendments to the SDCP legislative and regulatory policy platform. And I will turn it over to Patrick Welch, Senior Legislative Manager.
Thank you, Board Chair and members. Good evening. Patrick Welch, Senior Legislative Manager, here to present two substantive amendments to our legislative and regulatory policy platform, plus some technical and clarifying changes. Next slide, please. The first of the two amendments before you today follows up on the presentation myself and my coworker Stephen made during the last board meeting on grid regionalization. Regionalization, as a reminder, is a policy discussion about better coordinating across the 38 grid operators in the West to reduce costs and enhance grid reliability. The language that staff is to amend into our legislative and regulatory policy platform would allow staff to engage in discussions and support discussions on regionalization. The language doesn't prescribe any particular policy outcome, but focuses on key principles of putting customers first, reducing resource costs to SDCP, maintaining market transparency, meaning that we as a market participant would have a seat at the table about the decisions that are being made that ultimately impact our customers and our costs, and facilitating achieving SDCP's 100% renewable energy goal while maintaining grid reliability. Importantly, the language also includes a provision that we worked with IBW 569 on relative to maintaining in-state clean energy jobs. There has long been a concern that the discussion of grid regionalization could influence where clean energy jobs are developed. This language that we're proposing to include in the amendment would ensure that SDCP staff is engaging in these discussions in a way where maintaining clean energy jobs in California and respecting the board adopted policy on an inclusive workforce is part of the discussion. So that's the first of the two amendments. The second one would allow SDC staff to engage in legislative efforts relative to the Brown Act. The board last year approved support positions on two Brown Act related bills. We'd like to codify our ability to support those types of bills, really stemming from the COVID pandemic, to try and make a better balance between Brown Act provisions and the ability to participate remotely. There's a particular bill this year, AB 817, that would ease some of those restrictions for advisory bodies like the CAC. Staff thinks it's a very reasonable bill, so we'd like to be able to codify language in our policy platform to allow us to proactively engage in those pieces of legislation. And then finally, we are proposing some clarifying changes just to make sure the language is consistent throughout and clarify the intent in several places. So that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to take questions or provide any clarification.
All right, terrific. Thank you, Patrick. Thanks for the good work. And everybody who works on this. So with that, do we have any public comment?
We do not.
So we'll turn over the board members. This is an action request to approve the amendments offered. Board comments, questions, a motion? Mayor McCann?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you very much for allowing the advisory boards potentially to have better access to participate. I'm really supportive of that. And I will go ahead and make the motion to approve item 12. So moved.
Second.
I'll say.
And just the one thank you for, I know we had the discussion about regionalization last month. The language in terms of workforce and labor protection, I think was incredibly important, given what we don't know where power generation will occur, but how do we keep it going and move towards renewable energy? So thank you for that. On AB 817, what do you hear in terms of its likelihood?
I've been in touch with some colleagues in Sacramento who are sponsoring the legislation through the League of Cities, and it has passed the Assembly, but I think it faces some challenges in the Senate. It won't get a hearing in the Senate probably until June, but I think this bill has made it in a form that the local government community, I think, likes, but given what has happened to prior similar bills, there's been a watering down of those benefits in the second house. So I think people are optimistic, but also realistic in their outlook. But I think having more organizations support what I think is a really reasonable balanced bill, I think will help make sure we can stave off any efforts to water down the bill.
All right, good. Thank you for that update. All right, we have a motion to move the staff recommendation from Member McCann and second by Member Aguirre. Megan, please call for the vote.
Director Parent, how do you vote?
Aye.
Director Aguirre, how do you vote?
Yes.
Director Hensy, how do you vote?
Yes.
Director McCann, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair LaCava, how do you vote?
Yes.
Motion carries with all directors voting yes.
So moving on to item 13, which is to approve a resource adequacy agreement with, this is certainly my favorite name for an organization, 90FI 8ME LLC. And how do you pronounce that, Byron?
Great question, Chair.
Okay, well, we'll turn it over to Byron Bosberg, Managing Director of Power Service.
I didn't name it. You beat me to the blame Kenny because this is his project. Anyway, good evening, Chair, Directors. Happy opening day to Chairman McCann or Director McCann and others who observe.
And we won.
I
observe when we win.
Perfect, we'll take it. And yeah, I think I'm in between us and the second half of the San Diego State game too, right? So we'll try to move quickly through this item. Again, I want to give a shout out to Kenny Key, our Director of Power Contracts. He negotiated this item. It couldn't be here tonight, so I think that. We can jump into it. You can see, so Big Rock 2 is the name of the project. That certainly is easier to pronounce. Share your point than 90 FI 8 ME LLC. So Big Rock 2. And it's being developed by Avantis, subsidiary of Avantis, used to be 8-Minute Energy. I think that's why you see that 8ME in the name, has morphed now and been kind of absorbed into Avantis. So Big Rock 2 is eventually going to be a 225 megawatt solar facility, 64 megawatts of battery storage in the western side there of Imperial County. So this is a local project for us. The benefit is that it's CAISO interconnected. So we talk a lot about importing energy from Imperial County and how if it's outside of the ISO, you need import rights and it makes interconnection a little more challenging. This is a bit of a, unicorn here in that it's local, it's in Imperial County, but also CAISO interconnected. So has benefit to us in being local, but doesn't have the complexity of being an import resource. So this contract is for 74 megawatts of resource adequacy from the battery from the facility. We'll get into a bit of complexity. We'll get into that on the next slide, being the location here. So as I mentioned, and we've had a number of these deals recently in the last few months of contingent deals and kind of transmission and full FCDS capacity contingent deals. This is another one of those. So what we're signing the deal for here is 5 years of RA capacity from the 74 megawatt battery. It's got a guaranteed COD in late 2027, so we expect to be online, in that timing. But it's contingent upon this resource maintaining maintaining deliverability through the CAISO process. This contract should help it maintain deliverability, and so we expect it to. But we don't want to get too far ahead of the horse here and do a full PPA negotiation if we're not sure about the resource and its ability to claim RA. So what we have here is a contingent deal that, again, we expect it to get deliverability. Should it get deliverability, we'll then have a deal for 5 years of RA, and then we'll have an option to negotiate if terms are agreeable, and we'll bring it back to you all for review, of course, if we are able to come to agreement on the terms of that PPA. We'll have an option then to negotiate for the full output of the 225 megawatts of solar with full output from the battery beyond just the RA. So that's the complex summary, but hopefully that was straightforward enough. Again, our analysis here, this is does exactly what we're here to do. It's a local project for local renewables, local development, as well as local clean capacity. Pricing here is competitive. It's a wholesale resource, so it's competitive. What we see, throughout the industry and throughout our solicitations over the last year, and then also provides, or is also with Avantis as well as a large reputable developer within California. Next slide, please. So just a note on workforce development, community benefits. So Big Rock 2, as the whole site is developed, will provide 500 peak jobs. And 5 permanent jobs, and then also have a PLA. All I've got, I'll have to take any questions.
All right. Thank you, Byron. Megan, do we have any public comment on this one?
We do not.
All right. Okay, I'll turn it over to the board members. Staff is looking for support for their recommendation to approve the proposed agreement. Any questions or comments from the board?
I'll go ahead and move approval.
Okay, I'll second.
And I think you, Kenny, did a great job. I don't think I even have any questions. Thank you for that. That we can get RA.
My pleasure. I'll give
Yes.
all the credit. You did all the hard work.
Okay, so we have a motion by member Hensy and a second by member McCann to move the staff recommendation. Megan, please call the vote.
Director Parent, how do you vote?
Aye.
Director Aguirre, how do you vote?
Yes.
Director Hensy, how do you vote?
Yes.
Director McCann, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair LaCava, how do you vote?
Yes.
Motion carries with all board members voting yes.
All right, well, that wraps our regular agenda. And we'll go on to reports and we'll start with our CEO.
Great, good evening, board members.
I believe I am truly the last thing standing between you and the rest of the Aztecs gang. So I had the opportunity to celebrate International Women's Day at several speaking engagements. It's been Women's History Month as well, including at the Women Who Inspire Conference alongside my SDCP colleagues and teammates, Chandra Pugh, Taco Daiti Kumba, and Xiomales Crespo. We discussed the importance of promoting inclusivity within the clean energy sector and the pivotal role of women in shaping the future of sustainable energy. I was also able to participate in a panel of female leaders during North San Diego's Business Chamber's Annual Women's Week Conference, talking about the challenges and experiences that we have as women in leadership. The Association of Women in Water, Energy, and Environment hosted a virtual panel, Path to Power and Women Leaders of California CCAs. So I spoke on that one about my career in the clean energy industry and was also able to learn what my fellow panelists have done to launch their successful careers within the CCA space. And lastly, I was in Sacramento recently to present at a Cal CCA sponsored legislative briefing. I was joined by fellow CCA leadership in a CCA 101 for over 30 legislative staff in Sacramento. Next slide, please. Okay, it was full steam ahead earlier this month at San Diego's Festival of Science and Engineering at Snapdragon Stadium. Our team had a blast talking and sharing about the wonders of renewable energy with everyone who stopped by our exhibit. Shout out to Generation STEAM for a great day of science, engineering, and learning. Our team was also at Snapdragon this past weekend for the San Diego Waves opening match fan fest. Despite the rain at both events, we had a really fantastic time and a great turnout connecting with customers across the region. Next slide. All right, our community engagement team is preparing for a very busy April in honor of Earth Day. So I wanted to give you here a list and a quick overview of where we'll be this month, including Earth Day events in South Bay and La Mesa. I'd also like to remind you all about our current and upcoming vacancies on the Community Advisory Committee. Our CAC is made up of 2 community reps from each of our 7-member agencies. And we have some openings in Chula Vista, Imperial Beach, and San Diego County. And for those who may be listening, applicants can be residents, business owners, employees, or representatives of a community-based organization within the jurisdiction that they are representing. And okay, next slide, please. Lastly, we are continuing to build out our dream team and are currently recruiting for a settlements analyst and a community engagement associate. We will also be welcoming our new clerk of the board, Maricela Hernandez, who will start on April 22nd. With that, let's go Aztecs.
General Counsel, do you have any comments?
No updates from me. Thank you.
No? Directors, any comments on your end? Yes.
I do, yes. I have a little announcement to make. I made it at my own city council last night. And I am just letting everybody know that I've decided not to seek re-election to my seat for the Encinitas City Council, which means I'll be wrapping up my service here with SDCP by the end of the year. It's been such a pleasure to get to know all of you better and to serve alongside such a capable and talented staff on the forefront of so many of the answers to the biggest problems that we're facing. So thank you all. It's been such a pleasure and I'm not going anywhere yet, but I will soon.
There you go. Long goodbye. It's nothing
Oh, yeah.
wrong with that.
One other part to this, I'm 6 months pregnant, so I'm also, I will actually go away for a month or 2 this summer.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
There you go. Yes, congratulations. And seeing none other, then that brings us to the end of our agenda. Appreciate everyone's participation today. So anybody who had 37 minutes, I think you won. We are adjourned until the next regular meeting of the Board of Directors of San Diego Community Tower on April 25th, 2024. We are adjourned.